At 10:43 p.m., on a quiet January night, decorated war hero Clint Bonnell had no idea he was just minutes away from becoming a victim. To understand how a man who survived war zones met his end in his own home, we have to go back to the beginning. Born in Dripping Springs, Texas, Clint was the kind of person who lit up every room. His sister, Stefanie, remembers him as having the biggest personality, an athlete who loved people deeply, and an artistic soul equally passionate about football, music, and theater. After high school, Clint was working a normal job at Motorola, but then, September 11th happened. Watching the towers fall awakened a sense of duty he couldn't ignore. He left his civilian life behind and joined the army. Clint didn't just serve. He excelled. He became a Green Beret medic, one of the most elite roles in the military. He deployed across the world, saving lives on and off the battlefield. During a training assignment in Oklahoma, he met Shauna Cloud, a nurse who seemed to understand the emotional weight of caring for others. They eloped, and Clint stepped into the role of father to Shauna's young daughter Razy. For the next 16 years, he became the only father she ever knew, teaching her to dance, helping with beauty pageants, and cheering for her every dream. After more than 2 decades of service, Clint retired on December 31, 2024. He was thrilled about his next chapter. He worked incredibly hard to get accepted into Methodist University's physician assistant program, determined to turn his experience as a Special Forces medic into a new civilian medical career. He was in his 2nd semester and had already been elected president of his class. More importantly, Clint had found something he had been missing for years: genuine happiness. He had started a relationship with Kelly Edwards, a yoga instructor who described him as full of joy and optimism. But there was one huge problem. His marriage to Shauna had been emotionally over for years, and he was finally ready to end it. While Clint was planning a future filled with hope, Shauna lived in a very different world. She worked as a traveling nurse inside Virginia's Flavanna Correctional Center for Women, a Level 3 security prison known for its violent and harsh culture. Every day, she treated inmates with severe medical and psychological issues. Co-workers described her as calm, controlled, and professional, but the prison work had clearly hardened her. At home, their marriage was just a facade. Court documents later revealed that Clint and Shauna were living completely separate emotional lives under the same roof. Shauna had been monitoring Clint's communications and eventually discovered his relationship with Kelly Edwards. Clint had already been consulting with divorce attorneys for months. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone. He simply wanted to move on with his life, but Shauna was not thinking about a peaceful separation. She was thinking like someone who couldn't let go. On January 27, 2025, Clint finally decided to take control. That morning, he went to a lawyer's office to begin the divorce process. For him, it was a step toward freedom, finally being honest about his future. Afterward, he attended his classes, then went to the Fit for Life gym, where he and Shauna happened to be at the same time, though they left separately. Later that evening, Clint came home and made the fateful decision to tell Shauna that he had seen a divorce lawyer. It was a conversation he had probably been avoiding for years. His final text to his new girlfriend, Kelly Edwards, read, "I told her about the divorce. Good night." He didn't know that by telling Shauna, he had just triggered a deadly response. When Clint failed to show up for class the next morning, his classmates immediately knew something was wrong. This wasn't like him at all. By 3 p.m., the university called the police to request a welfare check. Deputies arrived at the home and found his car, wallet, backpack, and glasses, everything he would need for his normal life, all left inside, but Clint was gone. Shauna greeted the deputies with a calm, almost detached story. She hadn't seen Clint since they were at the gym the day before. She hadn't filed a missing person report. She didn't show any concern. She stuck to a simple narrative, one that investigators would soon prove was a complete lie. Later that night, Kelly Edwards called the police, panic in her voice. She filed a missing person report immediately. The contrast between the two women, the concerned girlfriend and the strangely calm wife, was impossible for investigators to ignore. By January 30th, the case was officially moved to the homicide unit. When deputies returned for a more thorough search of the house, they found something chilling. They discovered Clint's backpack and laptop, and both had bullet holes in them. It was clear evidence of gunfire inside the very home where Shona claimed nothing had happened. Investigators expanded their search to Virginia, where Shona owned rental property near the prison where she worked. They recovered her phone and other items that allowed them to piece together a digital trail of her movements. Cell phone records proved that Clint never left the house alive on the night of January 27th. Shona's phone told its own story. On January 29th, just one day after Clint's death, she traveled to a pond on Gay Road, about 3 miles from their home, and stayed for 15 minutes. That was the exact location where, weeks later, Clint's dismembered torso would be discovered. Shona was even caught on video near the scene. The GPS data and surveillance footage created a timeline that investigators described as undeniable. Then came the gruesome discovery. On February 25th, a homeowner reported a human torso floating in the pond behind their house. There was no head, no arms, and no legs. The body had been deliberately dismembered and dumped. On March 28th, DNA confirmed that the remains belonged to Clint Bonnell. The evidence painted a horrifying picture. Clint had been shot 4 times in the back while lying down a complete ambush. After his death, his body had been dismembered using a mechanical saw, likely by someone with medical experience, like a nurse. Shona Cloud was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and concealment of human remains. In court, the atmosphere was heavy. Clint's sister sat grieving. Razy, the daughter Clint had raised as his own, sat torn between her love for her family and the horrifying evidence against her mother. Shona, however, appeared calm and completely emotionless. The district attorney laid out the case, the digital proof, the video evidence, and the bullet holes matching Clint's wounds. The judge denied her bond, calling the crime heinous, capital murder. As of December 2025, Shona remains behind bars awaiting her trial. Clint's family still cannot hold a proper funeral because the investigation is ongoing. His sister, Stefanie, wakes up every day thinking about her brother. Razy lost the only father she ever knew, and now struggles with a devastating truth. Clint Bonnell survived war zones, dangerous deployments, and life-or-death missions all over the world. But in the end, the deadliest threat he ever faced was waiting for him inside his own home. Thank you for watching. If you found this story important, please consider subscribing for more content.